Kid Krow is this pop album that has soft rock, pop, and EDM elements infused in the sound that each piece and writing brings and pieces the project together as a whole. Hello, you're now tuned into Musical Radio. Let's review Kid Krow by Conan. The bass guitar heavy song Comfort Crowd is the first on the Kid Krow album, and Conan is singing about needing company. He positions his voice in a way that you can hear this longing, and I like the beat switch into this trap infusement that goes with an electric guitar as this elevates the song. Wish You Were Sober is one of the songs that I said at a party scene. This person that Conan speaks of has this liquor courage and they're acting differently than they would if they were sober. The subject isn't being honest with themselves, because why else would they lead Conan on while they're drunk? I really like Maniac when I first heard it when it got released. It's 80s coded, and in it Conan is made with this petty character who doesn't know what they want, and they're stringing him along. And assumably, if we were to say that the Wish You Were Sober character is the one that Conan is singing about, then there's more context on their behavior, and it's clear that they don't have the best intentions and they are not to be trusted. Online Love sounds like it was recorded in an actual coffee shop with the background noise that has people in a conversation, and Conan is describing this online encounter that he has with the subject, and I think this song is the way to romanticize that encounter as he sings softly on the acoustic guitar while he wonders how far this relationship could have gone if it was in person and not over the screen. Checkmate had me thinking about chess, but the song has this EDM element to it, and then it goes into the soft punk, and it alternates between that while the electric guitar also has its moments. The subject and Conan are playing mind games. One is angry while the other one plays these games, and in retaliation, Conan seeks revenge. The cut that always bleeds is about letting go of what is hurting you, and when the inflicting of pain stops, then there are wounds to tend to, or at least that is the picture I get. And Conan doesn't want to be a secret or this one-sided relationship anymore, and in the end it's easy for the subject to walk away because they aren't as attached as Conan is, so they leave. Fight or flight is usually a response to a frightening or traumatic event when the senses are heightened and the psyche has to make a decision to protect its person. Conan's reaction, though, is in response to their lover not loving them the same anymore, and things are changing between them, and they leave. I think that in the song, Conan knows how it feels to have love withdrawn, and so it's like, should they fight or leave? And the need to protect himself comes in the lines, fight or flight, I'd rather die than have to cry in front of you. This could be a call to not show weakness either. Affluences is about trust fund babies and how reckless they are with money. But in a Apple Music interview via the Apple Music app, he said, quote, "I grew up with financial ups and downs my whole entire life. We didn't know how we were going to survive, and I was so used to not having money that when I was young, I always thought that money would solve all my issues. Then I moved to LA and I discovered this whole other side of the world where there's these kids who grew up insanely rich. I started hanging out with them and going to their parties and seeing this other side of the world, and I discovered that even these people who grew up with tons of money are absolutely miserable. I figured out that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have, we all have a lot of the same problems." End quote. Can We Be Friends has Conan basically describing the type of friend he is, which is an overprotective and quiet, chilled friend. And to me, it really sounds like a really cool song to dedicate to a friend. And he's also asking in a way that kind of puts him in a position where he's like marketing himself as the perfect candidate for the role. Heather is this acoustic song about Conan's crush that he liked but preferred to be with a girl called Heather, while Conan was left hanging. The most confusing for Conan is that the guy kissed him and asked, quote, "Why would you ever kiss me? I'm not even half as pretty. You gave her your sweater. It's just polyester, but you like her better." End quote. Now, when I tell you that, my heart goes to Conan because it's clear that this guy he speaks of doesn't know what they want. Little League is just this nostalgic song, and Conan wants to be young again. And usually, this happens when you realize that life is laughing, but nonetheless, it gives me 2012 or the Twilight Saga type of vibe in its sound, and I'd say it matches the album cover too. The story is the last song on the album, and Conan narrates his and his friends' stories of when he was still at home growing up. The hard reality of life hits him in the lines, "Oh, and I'm afraid that's just the way the world works. It ain't funny, it ain't pretty, it ain't sweet." And in the end, when he mentions how him and his friend plan to leave their hometown to find better lives, I'm reminded that life is what you make it, and in their case, they kept those promises to themselves. Music videos. Checkmate starts out on the hills of LA, and Conan is listening to a voice message from people he was meant to be meeting with but can't. The guy and the girl in the music video are meant to be into Conan, but they're into one another too. And in here, it's a betrayal move because they both ditch Conan to be together and they won't tell him, but then he decides to get back at them and ships them to an island. Comfort Crowd's first scene is in a cabin house, and Conan is dragging a spade on the floor in the hallway. He then hits himself with it, drags the body, and cleans the blood splattered on the window. He's alone while singing about needing someone around, and maybe it's himself that he needs a break from, and the company of others that he needs instead, because the more I look into the video, he was probably losing his mind over being alone, hence these visuals. The Maniac music video was good, but my only critique is that the ex-boyfriends were underwhelming their depiction of having to have risen from the dead. Other than that though, the 80s theme carried well into the story visually, and I can't get Michael Jackson's Thriller out of my head. The story music video does not rely on storytelling through its visuals, but instead the main purpose is how Conan is shown through the lens, which is quite vulnerable in the shots taken and how the light falls on him or how the camera moves around him and he's dressed down. Wish You Were Sober is set at a house party that Conan does not wish to be in, and I guess for the purpose of the song it goes, but there isn't much worth mentioning for this video. Heather has this Europe-esque clean and intimate vibe to it. I think more than anything it was made to portray Conan's softness, and honestly its visual aesthetics did just that. This album carried me through the pandemic, and somehow the album's cover art captured the whole Dog Martens craze, and the album itself was so relatable and cohesive, making it enjoyable. Have you listened to the album? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Comment down below to talk about it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you for tuning in. Music Girl signing out.